Hello guys, how are you doing? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about a topic. I don't really know if you heard about it before, but if you didn't, then it is going to be an opportunity to discover it with us. This topic is about language change. The content of this video is going to be about a small introduction, definition of language change and examples, how and why does language change, types of language change, change and levels of language, the categories of the language change, and a small conclusion. Let's start with a general introduction. Have you ever wondered how and why has the English language changed and developed over time? The language we use to communicate today is different from the language used in the past. This will continue in the future, hundreds of years from now. People may not understand the language we use today. This is due to language change, which is constantly happening, even if we don't feel it. This work will explore the meaning of language change in the English language. We will also look at the different ways a language can change, considering the causes of these changes and their effects on us. Now let's see the definition of language change and examples. Language change is a phenomenon in which changes are made and the features of the use of a language over time. These changes are often gradual and usually permanent. However, this is not always the case. The rate at which changes occur depends on the different values of people who use certain languages. For example, if speakers of a specific language prefer the steadiness and tradition of their language, the changes will be more gradual. However, if they are more willing to embrace originality and unfamiliarity, the changes will be faster. An example of language change is the creation of new words and the discarding of old ones. Language change is studied by historical linguistics, sociolinguistics, and evolutionary linguistics. Now let us discover how and why does language change? There are many different routes to language change. Changes can originate in language learning or through language contact, social differentiation, and the natural processes in usage. Let's start with language learning. Language is transformed as it is transmitted from one generation to the next. Each individual must recreate a grammar and lexicon based on input received from parents, older siblings, and other members of the speech community. The experience of each individual is different, and the process of linguistic replication is imperfect, so that the result is variable across individuals. However, a bias in the learning process, for instance towards regularization, will cause systematic drift generation by generation. In addition, random differences may spread and become fixed, especially in small populations. Now let's see language contact. Migration, conquest, and trade bring speakers of one language into contact with speakers of another language. Some individuals will become fully bilingual as children, while others learn a second language more or less well as adults. In such contact situations, languages often borrow words, sounds, constructions, and so on. We have also social differentiation. Social groups adopt distinctive norms of dress, adornment, gesture, and so forth. Language is part of the package. Linguistic distinctiveness can be achieved through vocabulary, slang, or jargon, pronunciation, usually via exaggeration of some variants already available in the environment, morphological processes, syntactic constructions, and so on. Finally, we have natural processes in usage. Rapid or casual speech naturally produces processes such as assimilation, dissimilation, syncope, and apocope. Through repetition, particular cases may become conventionalized and therefore produced even in slower or more careful speech. Word meaning changes in a similar way through conventionalization of processes like metaphor and metonymy. Some linguists distinguish between internal and external sources of language change, with internal sources of change being those that occur with a single linguistic community, and contact phenomena being the main examples of an external source of change. Now let's see types of language change. Different types of language change include sound, lexical, semantic, syntactic changes. In what follows, we will explore each of these in more details. Let's start with sound changes. This refers to the changes in the sound of a language that affect the pronunciation of words. Specifically, this relates to any changes in the phonological or phonetic structure of the language. For example, words in Middle English contained longer vowel sounds than they do now. I'll give you an example. In Middle English, they used to say mate, but now they say meat. Then we have lexical changes. This refers to the changes in a language's vocabulary, which concerns the words in language, and lexical changes in the English language are borrowed words. These are words that have been taken from other languages, like Latin, French, German, and are now part of the English lexicon. For example, A from Latin, we have apparatus, formula, circus. B from French, we have salon, machine, novel. C from German, we have hamster, angst, and blitz. Then we have semantic changes. This refers to changes in the meaning of words over time and the use of metaphorical extension. This refers to extending the meaning of a word to other meanings similar to the original. For example, the word head originally refers to a body part of a human or an animal. However, this meaning has extended to include objects such as the head of a pin, screw, or nail. Finally, we have syntactic changes. This refers to changes in the structure of syntax in a language. Syntax refers to the ways words come together to form sentences, clauses, and phrases. Syntactic change can be shown through changing verb tenses. For example, the verb go. The verb go comes from the Old English gan. The past tense of gan was ilt. However, with the introduction of go, the past tense was not goat. Instead, the verb went was used, which was the past tense of to wend. This meant that go and wendy shared the same past tense. So went developed another past tense, wended. This left went as the past tense of go, which has been the same to this day. Now let's see change and levels of language. Language change offers evidence for the autonomy but interconnection of linguistic levels. While there is a general consensus on the organization of language as an arrangement of subsystems, there is equal insistence on the fact that these subsystems have definite points of connection. Although the sound and meaning system of a language are separate, there are definite links between the two. For instance, if there is phonological attrition in a language, then this may well lead to the opacity of lexical forms, which in turn can lead to later reinterpretation, as with the many instances of folk etymology. Before looking at the individual levels of language, it is important to point out that in recent research, linguists have stressed the gradient of grammatical categories. In English, for example, there is a common practice of using nouns in attributive adjective position, which leads functionally to a change in class. Example, with fan as in a fan party. This is still within a single level of language, that of syntax, but it does show that there is a degree of fluidity among categories, something which is long established in English and is perhaps characteristic of analytical languages as a whole. Now let's see the categories of the language change. The study of language change falls into two categories, which are diachronic and synchronic. Let's start with diachronic. It is a study that focuses on language which has taken place over the whole duration of language's existence. It has to employ a variety of techniques, because for most of the period of study, sound records do not exist. In the past, there were some of the techniques that are used for assessing language change that are as follows. We have classifying families of languages, study of manuscripts dating back to 500 in English. We have study of ancient poems in which the rhyme no longer applies. And finally, we have representation of animal sounds. B, we have synchronic. It is the study that focuses on change which is taking place currently. It is technically easier because of the availability of recording of spoken English. One example of current phonological change is the recent rise in intonation at the end of utterances in English. This is particularly prevalent among teenagers. Now let's see the conclusion. Today, English is considered as one of the fastest changing languages in the world because both old and new users of the language are actively shaping it, as English has become a language of education and in an increasing number of countries. In our lifetime, English belongs to any country which uses it, and the more people use English, the greater it would have an impact on the language change. Change can be a very good thing because it helps people to trade goods and services, travel and communicate with other nations more effectively. If the language we speak did not change, there would be an even greater language barrier than there already is. Another reason why languages need to change is for people to communicate with others who have a different culture, understanding, and pronunciation of our language. If there were no change, humans would be so lost in this world of different languages and different beliefs. Thank you so much for watching and take care. Goodbye.